Hello and welcome to Radio Waves. I'm your host, Kris Poliquin, and this is a production of Red Apples Media. We're broadcasting out of WLBE Real Country 790 AM out of Leesburg, Florida. And if you're watching this on television, you're doing so on LSTV, Comcast Channel 13, Bright House 498, and CenturyLink Prism Channel 83. Today I've invited Whitney Boylston, Director of the Office of Animal Services for Lake County, to talk about the Lake County Animal Shelter, some of the adoption rules, and just how the facility is doing in general. Whitney, thanks for being on the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, well, of course. I'm surprised you didn't bring at least one of the little ones, because we do have cameras here.
Yeah, next time I'll pack a few.
Okay, well, we'll see. Okay. All right. So let's get into it. Tell us a little bit about yourself, because you've only been with the animal shelter or with the Office of Animal Services for a little while, but you've been kind of a member of the organization, so to speak, or in that community for quite a while.
Right. So I became involved with the Lake County Animal Shelter about 5 years ago, first as a volunteer, and then I was one of the founders of Leash Inc., which is an independent nonprofit that partners with the animal shelter to support positive outcomes for the animals. And so I've seen a lot of forward progress over the years, a lot of positive change, and it all kind of came to a head about 6 months ago, and this opportunity was available, and I really felt in my heart that I could make a better and more positive impact from the inside. And so I came on board as the director of the animal services, and it's been a wild 6 months.
It sounds like it, because there's been a lot of changes in the last 6 months, and maybe even a little bit longer than that, because the shelter used to be under the county, correct, or the sheriff department. That's not the case anymore, is it?
That's correct. So in January of last year, the Board of County Commissioners resumed control of the animal shelter operations from the Lake County Sheriff's Office. The Lake County Sheriff's Office retained enforcement activities. So your animal control officers and the trucks that you see, those are dispatched by the Sheriff's Office. But the shelter itself is run by the county, and we have made several changes over the last year that have helped us on our mission to be a no-kill community.
Okay, now, and that's big news currently. What kind of changes do you think were maybe the most profound that you have seen, not necessarily in your term, just within the last year or so, that is putting the shelter, I guess, into the future, right?
So we made this commitment that we were going to be dedicated to finding positive outcomes for every placeable animal. And once you make that commitment, you have to very quickly step back and realize that, well, then you have to find the positive outcomes for all of these animals, right? And so in order to be designated as a no-kill community, you need to save over 90% of the animals in your care, and we've been successful in doing that. And a large part of that is our robust adoption program. The shelter needs adopters, right? So we rely heavily on the public to come in and meet their new best friend, and our adoption numbers are up dramatically over the previous year, and that's been a huge part of our success. The community has been absolutely amazing in responding to our calls for help and assistance, and we've got a great team of volunteers and an army of foster homes that really help us with our most vulnerable little lives.
Okay, now, foster homes, we were talking before the show. There's a difference between a foster home and an adoptee. Can you explain that to our audience? Because I was kind of surprised that you actually have a foster system.
Yes, we have sent hundreds of animals to foster this past year, and basically what that means is our animals are not quite ready for adoption sometimes. Sometimes they're too young, sometimes they're too small, sometimes they have a medical condition, maybe it's a behavior issue, they're just totally frightened in the kennel. And so when we can remove them from the shelter environment and place them into a loving home where they can grow and develop and become ready for adoption, it really helps us place them more successfully, and it opens the door for a positive outcome where in the past there wouldn't have been one.
So what does it take for someone to be a foster? If someone in the audience now is like, now that's an idea. I've got too many animals of my own, but I would still like to help out.
So we will be coming up on kitten season here very quickly. It's a
Kitten season? Is it
kitten
just the time of
season.
year where we get more of them? Or?
Yes. In colder climates, they have a much shorter kitten season. But up here, we've got a very
Sure.
long kitten season. So all you need, really, spare bathroom, and you can save lives. So we'll be pushing our foster program for our comprehensive kitten season plan here in the next month. So we'll be reaching out, having people sign up to be foster families. And so you just come to the shelter, you fill out some paperwork, we get you pre-approved, and while you're fostering for us, we provide all the supplies you need, medical treatment, we have a full-time veterinarian on staff, and support. There's a social media network of veteran fosters who are willing to kind of talk you through the difficult times. They exchange lots of pictures of poop, 'cause we talk a lot about animals, but sometimes it's messy. And so we also have another program which is called Shelter Break Sleepover, which is a short-term foster program. And we do this in basically two directions. One is if you're planning on adopting a dog but you're not sure that it's going to be the right fit for your household, you can take it on a shelter break and it can go home with you for the weekend or a week or 2 weeks, kind of see how it goes. Most of our animals come in as strays, and so we don't have really good background information on them, things that adopters want to know. But once the dog has spent a couple weeks in your house, you can come back and say, okay, well, the dog was house trained. It was really good with my kids, but my goodness, it did not like my cat. Okay, so then we can take that information and more successfully place the pet next time. So we don't look at it as a failure at all. It's really a great way for us to get this information that adopters want, and it gives the dog a break from a kennel. So that's very small commitment. The other way that you can do a shelter break is we've got dogs that have a really extended length of stay, which is unfortunate, but because we don't euthanize animals for time or space, that means sometimes they stay with us for a long time. And we've got some dogs at the shelter now who have been with us for over 200 days.
Wow.
That is too long to be in a kennel. We can all agree that that's not appropriate. So if we can get them out periodically into a home, give them a break, hence the name Shelter Break Sleepover,
Sure.
and then we can compile all that good information that we need to hopefully get them adopted and out of the shelter permanently.
Okay. So what kind of, you were speaking on the kennels themselves. Can you paint a picture so our audience has an idea of what the conditions are at the shelter now?
So we have about 82 large dog kennels on our adoption floor. We've got another 45 or so in our isolation building. So when you add in our small dog areas, we can comfortably house about 150 dogs, and then a couple hundred cats in our cat area. The shelter,
That's a lot.
It is a lot of animals, absolutely, and we like to not have so many, so that's where our adopters and our fosters come in. But so no matter what we do, the very best effort, and our volunteers are amazing. The shelter is it's not a great place to be if you're an animal. It's not a substitute for a home. It's not a sanctuary. So we have a really comprehensive approach to decreasing our length of stay. We want animals to come in and go home as quickly as possible.
Okay. Where are you getting these animals from?
Primarily, about 2/3 of our animals are strays, and then the other third-ish are owner surrendered, so people who can no longer care for their pets.
Really? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now we're talking, potentially the elderly or families that now have infants and the dog just is too rambunctious per se. It's not all necessarily bad, right?
Right, and
bad reasons.
Very often, there's a legitimate reason. Sometimes the owner has died.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they are hospitalized or go into long-term care. Sometimes, unfortunately, it does seem that people use the shelter out of convenience, and we all kind of look at each other and shake our heads, because we feel like you make a commitment to an animal, that is a lifetime commitment. But not everybody sees it that way, so when we're able to take in those owner-surrendered pets and find them a new home, we do it just as fast as we can.
Sure. And I imagine there's quite a bit of that probably in this time of year in the coming months as well. Maybe Christmas gifts. And then, yeesh, I didn't realize we got a St. Bernard and, he's tearing up the house. So how many animals do you currently have? Because over the last couple of months, I've seen reports that you were almost, at capacity, if not maybe over Or at least that's what it sounded like.
Oh, absolutely. So we had a couple situations several months ago that put us well above capacity. One of those was the hurricane. So we had an enormous intake of animals for a couple reasons. Partly because anytime there's a storm event, animals get lost. A little bit of that is like scent markers. So if your dog has been using the restroom on one tree, for so long, and then suddenly that tree is like, a mile away because of a tornado, they get disoriented. But mostly it's because people don't realize their fence has been compromised. And so they let their dog out, not knowing that, maybe one of the panels has been loosened and the dog runs off. And then they have a more difficult time finding their way home. So we were very, very full following the hurricane. And we put out a plea to the community asking for help, not only come get your pets, but also the ones that have been with us for a while really needed a place to go, to get out. And so people came in, they responded, they adopted, and we were able to overcome that challenge very successfully.
Okay, so you actually ended up housing pets that had no intention of being there in the first place. How were you able to get those pets back to their original owners?
We do this thing. It's called proactive reunification, which means that we don't just take in a stray animal and sit back and wait for the people to come and get it. We've got a very dedicated social media group who looks at pictures of lost and missing and found pets and tries to get them reunited. Maybe you're not a member of What's Up Claremont, but you're a member of, South Lake something or another. And you wouldn't necessarily be able to find the picture of your pet on your own, but these people scour these pages and they're matching these pictures together and contacting the people. And they also,
really?
Yes, and they also, we call them volunteer pet detectives. And they also look at our intake reports and our pictures, and they match those up as well. We also are very proactive with our microchip research. So if we run a microchip and it's not registered, we don't go, oh, well, no, that didn't work. We call the company, find out who they sold the chip to. We call the clinic and find out which animal they implanted it into. But then they give us the owner information, but the phone number is disconnected. Well, we don't stop there. We're going to find you on Facebook. You don't respond to our message. We're going to message your sister because we saw a picture of you with a dog. So we are going above and beyond to try to get these pets home, because why waste time and resources trying to rehome a pet when it has a family that's missing it? So that's our primary goal.
And you don't want to give away someone's family pet because they're part of the family.
Absolutely.
It's like, oh no, Spot was adopted by our neighbor. Oh, no. Not a good idea.
Right.
How many people do you have working here? Or are these like all volunteers?
No, we have a full-time staff, about 22 people. We're hiring right now. You can go to lakecountyfl.gov and apply.
Okay.
Absolutely. We're looking for good help. And then we have about 100 or so registered volunteers, and we're always looking for more. Our volunteers provide invaluable service of enrichment for our animals. So they're doing dog walking and play groups and doing some kitten cuddling, the stuff that the staff may not have the time to do.
Wow. So we're about to take a break, but if someone wanted to get more information, where can they get that information?
They can fill out their volunteer application online at lakecountyfl.gov, and they can swing by the shelter and talk to us, and we'd love to tell them all about our volunteer opportunities. Okay,
well, let's go to break real quick, and when we come back, we'll get a little deeper into the weeds of the Lake County Animal Shelter with Whitney Boylston. We'll be right back. Hello and welcome back to Radio Waves. Again, I'm your host, Kris Poliquin, and this is a production of Red Apples Media. We're talking with Whitney Boylston, the director of the Office of Animal Services for Lake County. And before the break, we were talking about the conditions of the shelter and some of the pets that you have and some of what the community's been doing to help. Let me ask you this: how many animals go through the shelter within a year? Do we have any idea?
Yes, we take in over 6,000 animals a year. And our intake from last year is almost identical. So we're up about 25 animals over the same time period last year.
It seems like a lot of animals every year.
That it's, yeah, 6 6,293. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's a substantial number of animals. And we did talk about how most of them do come to us as strays. And so we like to encourage folks to please get your pet microchipped, make sure that the microchip is registered. And there's no substitute for just a good old-fashioned name tag with your phone number so that we can get your pet right back to you.
Right. Now, what kind of animals do you see come in at the shelter?
We do a lot of dogs and cats, puppies and kittens, but then we get some other kind of strange things. We had 2 little pot-bellied pigs came in today. We just held a livestock auction. We had 6 cows at the shelter.
Cows. Now, where do you get the cows?
They don't stray cows.
People don't bring those in a hatchback.
No.
Hey, I found this walking down the side of the road. I figured
You're right. They call the sheriff's office when there's loose cows running around, and then they round them up and bring them to us. And we try to find the owner. Unfortunately, in this situation, we could not. And then we also get things like pocket pets, guinea pigs, hamsters. We just had a ferret come in and out. We'll have birds every once in a while. So all different kinds of animals.
Okay, because, again, I think I want to open up the eyes. It's not just cats and dogs. That's kind of like an important rule. Because I visited your website, and I was pretty surprised. Anything from like raccoons and, the things that go in and out of that shelters can be, I guess, unusual. A ferret. I haven't seen a ferret in years.
Yeah.
I used to have one, actually. I also read that you receive a lot of donations from the public. But I was kind of surprised to see what you're actually asking for. Everybody, the first thing people assume is, well, yes, money. But what all do you or would you like to see?
So again, we'll be coming up on kitten season here very soon, and so we always need canned kitten food. We prefer pate style, and then canned food in general we go through a lot of for our older dogs or, our sick animals. We like to give them canned food. But then also we use it when we pass their medication, so we go through a lot of it. And then it's called Kitten Milk Replacer, KMR. It's a powdered formula for underage kittens that are not weaned. We go through a lot of that during kitten season, lots of bottle baby kittens. So we really appreciate...
Bottle baby kittens.
Yeah, little bottle baby. And if you want to be a bottle baby foster, please let us know. We'll get you trained up, and it's a very rewarding experience. And then we also always need blankets. In cold weather, all of our dogs get a blanket at night. So we do a lot of laundry, so we need a lot of blankets. And then towels, of course, we are always in need of for bath time, and treats. Our dogs love treats.
Wow. So if someone had something that they wanted to donate, just drive it by the shelter?
Yep, just drop it on by. We'd gladly take it from you.
Okay. Now, is there a process? Let's say someone did find an animal, a stray. Is there a process that they need to be aware of, or can you just drive by 10 o'clock at night and just put it over the fence?
Well, we definitely don't want people to do that. You are welcome to call ahead and make sure, that our hours are that we're open. So we are there Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and 11 to 5 on Saturday and Sunday. If you were to come across a stray animal that's outside of our operating hours, you can call the Lake County Sheriff's Office, and they can assist you. But if you find a stray animal within the limits of Lake County, we do not take stray animals from out of county. There's a couple reasons for that. The first and most important is that if you lost your dog in another county, you're not going to come to the Lake County Animal Shelter looking for it.
Of course.
So we want to make sure that those dogs have a good chance of being reunited. And then, of course, we are a county facility. So if you find a stray pet in Lake County, we'll have you fill out some paperwork where you found it. Did you have any experiences with the animal while it was in your care? You need a driver's license, and then we'll go ahead and get the animal processed and post it on our website, and then it'll be shared on social media so that we can try to find its home.
Okay, so pretty simple from the sounds of it. Can you explain to me what exactly a no-kill shelter is?
So the national standard for a no-kill shelter is saving 90 or more % of the animals that enter your care. And at the Lake County Animal Shelter for the last year, we have successfully created positive outcomes for over 90% of the animals that entered the shelter. That does not mean that an animal is never euthanized in our care. Sometimes that is the most humane and compassionate thing that we can do for an animal. We do get animals who come to us who are severely injured. Maybe they've been hit by a car, maybe their spine is broken. I mean, there's very tragic and traumatic situations that we deal with. And then also there are some animals that pose a public safety risk, and unfortunately there's just no way for us to safely adopt them out. It doesn't happen too frequently, but it does. Right. And then sometimes we have animals that come to the shelter who are sick or injured wildlife who require like rabies testing, and I mean those do not have a positive outcome. And
sure.
It's a very sad thing. I mean, everybody wishes that you could save every single animal, and sometimes that's not the right thing to do, and it's not the compassionate and humane decision to make. So we try to do the best we can for every animal, and the staff takes these decisions very seriously. And then I think it's also important to note that of our numbers of animals that do not make it out alive, some of those we are trying so hard to save and they just don't make it. So we lose a significant number of little tiny kittens during kitten season because they maybe were born premature, or they were born to parents who were never vaccinated. They were taken away much too soon. And so no matter what we do and how hard we try, we're still going to lose some of them. But that's included in that 10% leeway that they give you when you're being designated as a no-kill shelter. Because the truth is, you cannot and should not really get to that 100% point.
And that's, I think, what I wanted our audience to understand is that you should not. And it sounds odd saying that,
right,
but there are some animals that just shouldn't be placed in homes for whatever the reason, like you were just explaining. But that's a big benchmark for your facility. There's usually a fee that's associated with adoption, correct?
Sure. So our adoption fee on a regular day is only $10. Your $10 adoption fee includes their initial vaccines, deworming, rabies, county tag, microchip, heartworm or combo test, and their surgery to spay or neuter. But cats are $10, and you always get the second one for free. So cats are BOGO. So it is a very low adoption fee regularly.
Wow. Okay. So what kind of recommendations would you have for someone who's looking for a pet? Because there's a lot of designer animals out there now, and a lot of people, I want that specific, I want, this type of animal, this type of cat, this type of dog, this type of bird. What are your recommendations for someone who's looking to bring a little one into their family?
I would say no matter what, make sure that your local shelter is your first stop when you are looking to add a family member. You never know what you're going to find. We get new animals all day, every day, unfortunately, but they come in. Mm-hmm. And we get all different kinds, all different ages, sizes, breeds. So if you don't see what you're interested in today, you can always come back tomorrow. Keep an eye on the website, petharbor.com. You can see our inventory. It actually updates about every hour as we intake animals into our system. So,
really?
Yeah, if you see something you like, zip on down to the shelter. We'd be happy to introduce you. And keep an open mind, because you never know who you're going to fall in love with.
I was looking at that site, and that's why I brought it up. I didn't realize it updated every hour, but you have a lot of little, well, again, I keep saying little because they're smaller than I am, but there's a lot of cats and dogs on that list, and it's pretty descriptive. If you're looking for a specific type of terrier, the color, I was quite surprised. It was, I think a good avenue for you to get the information before you actually show up. Not
Absolutely.
That I wouldn't recommend going.
Yeah, you really should come and check in person because sometimes the picture doesn't do them justice, or their personalities really come through when you meet them in person. And everybody wants the little ones, but I always tell them that when you adopt a bigger pet, it's A, more to love, and B, you get more for your money.
Right. Okay.
It's a better deal.
All right. So if someone wanted to get more information, again, where can they get that?
They can visit us at lakecountyfl.gov/LCAS. Like us on Facebook. That's a great way to kind of keep up with everything that we're doing out at the shelter. And then just come on down and hang out with us. We love visitors.
Okay. Well, I think that just about does it for our show today. So, Whitney, thank you so much for being my guest and helping get this information out to the public. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. So that's our show for the day. I've been your host, Kris Poliquin. We'll see you next time.